those of you that are coming into this after you saw my Emmy route complete, yes, I mentioned in there, well, throughout the playthrough that I did of Emmy's route, how I wasn't going to do anybody's bad route. That's just the way that I did it, you know. But you might ask then, what exactly is this? Well, it's exactly what it says. Now, whether you're viewing this in my playlist or you just found it as a video on my YouTube channel, either way how you found it, um, I would say it's probably a little easier to search my playlist, but it doesn't really make a difference how you guys found this video. But it's exactly what this video says though. This is Emmy's 100% choice guide walkthrough. I'm not going to play the whole game. Obviously, you see that I have a little bit of Katawa Shoujo music in the background. A little bit. So, obviously on a lower scale. So what this is going to be about, to some of you that's seen it, is those of you that do want the 100%. Maybe some of you out there that do want to do that. Maybe you have done Emmy's route, or maybe you got a portion of it, or you try to do Emmy's route, but just you got on somebody else's, or it doesn't matter how you played it. Maybe you wanted to try Emmy's and things just, you thought you had a guide that basically got you there, and somehow maybe it didn't go the way you wanted to go. Well, I have exactly that. This is the professional guide. This is not, a Let's Player like myself that would, okay, this is the choice you need to do to make it. No, this is basically closest you can get to the original developer, a way that you would approach each route and the choices that you would make along the way. Basically, to get to Emmy's route, Emmy's route to me, I would say, has the most basic common route before her route starts. Out of everybody else, they kind of branch off a little bit. So you might say, well, there's some guides or maybe some choice guides out there where it says the choices early on doesn't really matter. No, they do. Every choice matters. That's kind of how I look at it. Yeah, obviously when you play or when I played it for the first time, I kind of had that kind of mindset too, where you just kind of go in, you make choices where, something that you might do if it was you kind of thing. But maybe you played it a little bit before, but you actually want to complete it the way that, the way that the game is going. And, you want to get 100% on Emmy's route or maybe something like that, but you never done it before. Well, I have a choice that'll give you all that, plus the common route. That way, some of you, if you do decide to do a Let's Play of this or whatever, you won't have to do a long common route for it. Well, it's not the common route in here isn't that long either way, because you start making choices right away. Alright, so yeah. Well, obviously, as you guys know then, the first choice you get in the game, obviously, is when you meet Mutuo, the teacher, right? Now, there's some people say, that this choice here really doesn't matter except for completion's sake. Well, it depends on how you look at it. I don't know. But for Emmy's route, they include this as part of their route, or at least part of it anyway. And what you're going to want to choose here is, yeah, of course. So that is the choice you're going to want to pick. I have no idea what Y does. Never really, out of any route that I did in this game, and this doesn't even apply to Emmy, that choice doesn't ever come up, so it's kind of interesting. I'm talking about the professional guide. I don't know. Yeah. So, alright. So, now that we got Mucho out of the way, hopefully, if you guys need to, I would suggest writing some of these choices down, so that way maybe you might remember them along the way. But I'm sure some of you guys already know the choices, but maybe you lost track part of the story. Because while I'm going along, I'm going to explain what's going on by the time you get to each choice. That way, it's a little bit better of understanding on it. Okay, so we go from them to to Shizune and Misha, who obviously you start meeting about in the class, right? Eventually you start getting around, right? And you get three choices here. Now, there's the ask about the library. You got, I think I got everything I need to know, and ask about Shizune's deafness. Well, if you want to go to Emi's route, you don't want to pick the top one here or Shizune's deafness, because asking about the library has to do with Hanako, and you don't really, that's not where you want to branch off at. So what you're going to choose here, and one thing I should have mentioned is that sometimes these choices aren't always like this, like the way that I have here. They sometimes are random. Like, there'll be three choices, but sometimes the choice might be the choice you want, could be at the top. Wherever the choice sits, that is the choice that you need to go with. Okay, so the choice you need to pick here is if you want to get onto Emi's route while at the same time while meeting everybody along the way through the common route without branching off into someone else's. Well, then what you need to choose here is this second line that I'm showing you. I think I got everything I need to know. That would allow you to bypass going to the library, doing that, and then asking about Shizune's deafness. I don't know. To be quite honest with you, when I first played this, I didn't pick Shizune's thing anyway. I thought it was a little bit kind of rude. Like, because why would you even ask? I don't know. It'd be kind of like, hey, why is it that you can't hear? Like, I don't know. What kind of deaf type are you? Because there's two types, you got the normal type where they can't hear, or some of them, they sometimes can hear slight vibrations, and that's it. But then you also got the mute type deaf, where they can hear a little bit, but they can't speak out of their own mouth. So it's kind of like, some people, it's like they're kind of fall into the same category a little bit. I don't know. But most of the time they don't talk most of the time, because usually even if the person's mute, or in the case of their hearing, because they can't hear how they sound a lot of times, it's so that's pretty much that. Okay. So now that is what this choice you're going to want to pick if you want to stay on Emi's route. Okay, so we're going to go forward now. Now, there is another choice that you get, and you might say, well, I thought you won't go with these people. I thought you don't branch off. Trust me, you're not really on Shizune's route, even though it kind of looks like you're kind of hanging out with them a little bit. You're fine. But basically, another choice will come up here. And now, the other guys will say this choice here really doesn't matter because it says you lose either way. But on the professional walkthrough of this, to get on the Emi's path, she has a point. You want to attack aggressively. Obviously, you're going to lose, yeah. But this doesn't really put you really on Shizune's path here. It plays a part of it, but that's not really, you have to make a few other choices beforehand. The choice you saw previously that had to do with the deafness thing. Yeah, so that plays into Shizune there. Since you kind of bypass that question, now basically all you're getting here is, all they do is just kind of ask you about the student council, right? But nothing comes of it. He basically, says, well, I need to think about it, and it never really comes up from there. That's pretty much it. So after that, you get where you do and eventually go into the library when he decides to go on his own. And you meet Lily along the way first. Eventually, you do come across Hanako. Now, when you first come across her, what you want to say here is, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to startle you. Basically, if you do I think, I would have to, because I'm not doing Hanako's route. Depends on when you guys are watching this. Obviously, since I'm doing Emi right now, obviously I didn't do Hanako, so, but, yeah. You're going to want to choose I'm sorry, I didn't mean to startle you there. And, she does what she does typically. She'll take off after a while. They have a conversation. that's pretty much, well, not even really a conversation. The protagonist pretty much just kind of keeps looking at her face, scars, and which is a little bit, I always say, don't stare at somebody too much, especially with somebody like that. It's like a little bit rude, as I always say, but Sao couldn't really help himself. And yeah, then that scene plays out, and then she just takes off. Uh, so we go from that to, you get a little bit of some conversation here with Kenji. He basically comes out. Now, some guides out there, some people say this choice doesn't really matter. Well, in the professional guide, it kind of does. I don't know. Just say she was cute, because, I don't know. Why wouldn't you say it? I mean, she wasn't cute. I don't know. People say it really doesn't matter, but I'm the type that sticks to 100%. That's just kind of the way I am, anyway. I don't know. Not that I was going for all the endings in this game on my Let's Play channel, but I did do it on my own to unlock things on my own. But in terms of up here, no. I only did, my personal opinion, Emi's best ending, which is her alternate, good ending, I would say. So yeah, you're gonna want to choose that line, is she was cute there. Then there is another situation where Hanako does come across you again. And, she comes to the class and things like that. And then there's another one that has to do with wait for Shizune and Misha to come to a decision. And you go talk with Hanako. I think some of us, when we first played this, I did this too a little bit. I went and actually talked to her. And this kind of, I made a few other choices along the way. And that's pretty much how I got on Hanako's route a little bit. Because you could really help not to, I introduced myself back when she was in the library, and that's kind of pretty much what I did. And then when I saw her here, I was like, well, I gotta say something to her. I mean, kind of ignored her, reading a book when you got this person here. It's kind of like, I don't know, they seem a little bit timid and shy. You kind of want to say something. But that is the choice you have to make if you want to stick to Emi's route, however. Waiting for Shizune and Misha, that plays more into them, and yeah, so you don't really want to do any of those. Yeah, so you want to choose read my book. Yeah. Now, so a little bit passes a little bit for that particular point where you do start running into Emi for the first time. Obviously, you find out she has no legs. But by the time you get to this point, the doctor starts talking to you about physical activities, exercise, and that so on and so forth. And yeah, so to continue to keep going towards Emi's route, I should say, you're going to want to say yes here. Because even the nurse says himself, he said, "Can you promise to me to be more serious about this from now on?" But when he raced Emi the first time, he kind of overdid it, right? A little bit. So, yeah. He told him to get some exercise, but he didn't tell him to kind of like, okay, I need you to like go out there, like kill yourself over. But that's pretty much what he did. Yeah. So, now, so we'll go from that to, oh wait, you know what? I actually kind of mixed some things up. I might actually put that one part there wrong. I don't know. But either way, that is the choice you need to pick if you want to get to Emi's route. Now, this one here, this choice also pops up as well. This is where Shizune and Lily kind of get into a little spat. If this happens to come up while you do, just pick, hey, come on, cut me and Lily some slack. This is not going to put you on Lily's path. But basically, because you already kind of bypassed Lily anyway, there's no way you can get on her thing right now. Unless if you would have did a few things back there with Hanako towards the library, because they have a similar kind of path layout a little different here or there in certain choices, but they're similar in the way you go about them though. So by this particular point, you should be fine. Now, if everything goes well, you should already be, by the time you should be on your way towards Emmy's path. Now, to make Emmy's route officially go, because you would already meet Emmy here for a second time, this particular point with the track won't even come up if you made other choices along the way. Because you would have already met Rin by this point, you know, and all that. So, to get to for her route to start after this, you want to go for it. Okay. Okay. So as opposed to take it easy, I'm not really sure what that does. Maybe it's just a neutral thing and the game ends. Who knows? I've never actually done it, but the professional guide says to go for it. So yeah. Okay. Now another while when her route gets going, you don't really get a choice for a little while. But eventually, you do eventually get another one, and what you're gonna want to choose here when this choice comes up is when they go on a little. They wanted to go on a little picnic. It was kind of her idea, Emmy's that is, but they end up going to the Shanghai or whatnot to get out of the rain because it kind of rains on them a little bit. So you keep quiet kind of thing or offer to run with Emmy. So you're going to want to choose offer to run with Emmy. Now after this, you definitely don't get another choice for a long time. Uh, but what does happen is if you've been playing Emmy's route up to this particular point, then you kind of know that there's things kind of going on with Emmy, right? Um, you know, things like that. So if you've already seen Emmy's route, then I don't really need to say much here. But in case if you, maybe you might have forgot what choices I might have picked or anything like that, that's kind of why I'm making this video here. You're going to want to press Emmy on this. Yeah, because letting it rest, she is the stubborn type, you know, so that's just kind of just the way she is, you know. But there, obviously, you guys know there's more to it than that because her dad and things like that. So, I don't know. Yeah. Uh, Now, by the time you get to this point of the game where things kind of start getting a little more serious, obviously, you know, you have depending on what party you're at, you might have already did the H scene happen, maybe I don't know, but a few things happen after that. If you don't talk to this guy, from what I understand, the game just kind of is a bad choice. Not something that'll lead to a bad ending, just a bad choice. So what you want to do here is let's say if some of you got to this point, but you didn't exactly know, maybe you picked a choice, but you're like, oh, something happened and the game kind of ended. Well, what you want to do is you want to spare time here because you want to, obviously, because Sal has things on his mind. But if you kind of know how Sal has been by this point, he can't seem to figure what's going on with Emmy, right? He hasn't put the piece of the puzzle together why Emmy is, you know, pushes people away a little bit, kind of how the way she is. But then, because he's going to give you some advice, he's going to use basically a science thing to kind of talk about that. So, if you let Sal kind of do this, he's just going to go fumble, and then that's pretty much it. So, you're going to want to pick, I suppose I could spare a few minutes. Uh, and then there's also another advice that comes into play here when you go meet the nurse for another time. And it, you know, he says, sure, you know, why not? That's the choice you want to pick. Now, if you go, no, this is my problem, and he goes to try to deal with it, you know, if you guys made it to this point, there's no way he would figure it out. Now, I don't know anybody that dense who could not figure that out. Uh, you know, all this time, it's kind of like, I think the mom kind of mentioned something previously about Emmy, didn't she not? You know, and plus the doctor mentioned things about her legs. I think it would have kind of added up a little bit to me. I would have kind of got it. I said, okay, you know. But because the way Emmy is, you do have to press her sometimes. You just have to do it in a way to where, you know, you don't push her too far. That's all I would say about her. She just needs a little nudging, as I always say. Now, if you got to this point, um, there is a little bit of a time gap because if what's going to happen here is you get two choices on this. Now, if you talk to her mom, okay, which you could do that, this is going to lead to Emi's normal ending. Now, that's up to you. I would say by this point, because you don't, if you pick talk to her mom, you will not get another choice after this, okay? So what I would suggest, if you made it to this point, make a few saves. If you probably already made some saves, that's fine. Go ahead and do that. Talk to with her mom. You're gonna get a few things that's gonna play out, and basically you're gonna get Debbie's normal ending. You get a little bit of a good part of it towards the end, just kind of like there's a thing that you go up to the roof. You got her hanging out with Rin and things like that, and that's pretty much that. Now the other choice, if you made the save, is what I did to get her best ending. I'm only telling you this if those of you out there want to do Emi's 100% complete. If you want a complete version of Emi's thing, then do the talk to her mom thing first, and then come back to this save. Make sure you have this save because this save would not be there if you did all the choices up to this point. So after you do talk, go after her, I should say. That's what you want to do to get to the bad. Because to get to the bad ending, you have to go through that choice. Because a different conversation obviously plays out than the mom here. Obviously, you guys see. Now, one of the few times they actually used Misha for something, which is kind of interesting on that. But if you want to do the bad ending, you're going to want to downplay the issue. Okay? Now, I would say make a separate save of that. If you can handle this, I would say out of all the characters in this game, Emi's bad ending is still pretty tame compared to, I would say, Hanako, Rin, even Shizune's bad, well, Shizune's, hers is more like, it's kind of bad, but not really as depressing, I would say, as Rin and I would say Hanako. But it's still getting a little bit depressing, though. Only because the protagonist, just because of the argument, that's it. I mean, the relationship pretty much never goes anywhere, and, it almost like, so basically, that's pretty much what happened. Now, if you want to basically do the bad ending, come back, and then get to her alternate ending, what you're going to want to do is give in and let Misha know. What this would do is kind of do a little bit of the same thing you kind of saw back there. But this time it'll bring you back to the good route. He will go back, his Sal that is, he will go and apologize to Emi down at the track. And yeah, because in her normal and Emi's normal ending, he makes up to her back at the cemetery, over there, and then she starts talking about her dad and things like that. But if you give in and let Misha know, he will basically apologize for what he said back to her back at the house. And then she cries there. They kind of do a little bit of a brace kind of thing. And then she says, I have to think about it. Because doing it that way, he got her to actually make the choice herself rather than have her mom say it. I actually think doing it that way, going and getting her alternate ending, Emi's that is her best ending because it includes that. Plus, you get to hear the story from her own mouth about her dad and so on, so many other things. Then obviously the last part, yeah, it always, even her normal part, they always end up going upstairs, which I always find kind of funny. It's like the last thing you get is a fuck scene. It's like, I don't know, it's kind of weird on that. Like, I mean, the last thing you see, obviously she's got her back to you, so you don't really see too much. If you're the type that has to upload it like me, but with the way YouTube is nowadays, though, they're a lot more strict than they used to be. So yeah, that's kind of why I didn't include it. I had no choice but to kind of not have it in there. It's like and they actually did it the natural way as opposed to the way they tried it the first time around. So it's like, but that is your choices, guys. Those of you that want to know how to go about this Emmy's route. So if you guys followed it all this time, God bless you. And yeah, so Emmy's pretty interesting route, I gotta say. Definitely not my favorite route or anything like that, but she's certainly up there. You really get attached to this character pretty early on, and it's just I don't know. It's kind of interesting the way that they did her. I might do a review of her route just in general, what I actually think of it. And that'll be a much shorter video than what you guys got here. But if there's any part that you guys missed, just pause a part of this and just, that's pretty much it. And yeah. So, but yeah, I think her route is actually, pretty straightforward. And I do think it's a good starter route to start with. I really do. After playing it now for this is the third time that I've actually played her route now. Well, actually, yeah. Because first time I played it was a while ago. So I want to take that back. It's actually the second time I've actually played her route as opposed to third. Because when I first played the game, Hanako is who I got a neutral route on. And then, another time I played is what I did Emmy. Um, so this is actually the second time I did Emmy's route. And I actually have a much more better perspective than even the first time that I played her route. So it's interesting, So yeah, it's pretty good, I still think the other characters' routes beat hers though, in terms of overall what they kind of get out of them. But it's interesting. But you'll see after when I do reviews, though, I do think Emmy fits the. Some of you might disagree, some of you might not. Depends on who you think. You can have a best girl and think who fits with the protagonist the best necessarily. You know what I mean? Like I like Hanako too. I think a lot of us could all agree about Hanako. Same thing with that. But I really think that Emmy. Um, just has a better fit with him. I don't know. It's just kind of the way I look at it anyway. I don't know. Seems to be the most compatible, I would say, out of the people that I've played through all these girls' routes. Yeah, it's just interesting on that. Alright, so hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, I will see you guys next time. Stay tuned anyway for Rin's route. That'll be on its way. So.